Hey all, this is Chad from Modern Fortitude. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm running this episode solo, and one of the things that I've been working on is a collection of short stories that I'm going to compose into a novel of sorts. These short stories include hunting stories, memories of being outside, experiences that I've had either outdoors by myself, with family and friends, and I want to narrate the start of one of the first stories that I started recalling and recounting and rewriting into short story form. And that is actually my son's first deer hunting trip that he participated with me in, I believe it was September of 2021, so just a few months ago. While he himself wasn't armed, I brought him along with me to set in the blind and be still, be quiet, observe nature, and just really absorb it all. Part of this narration, I'm also going to try to find and make an experience for you as the listener. I'm going to include sound effects when I mentioned it, shutting a car door being shut. I want to find a sound effect of that, include it kind of as some background noise to really create a sense of you as a listener being there and experiencing that with us. So, with that said, thank you for joining me, and I'm going to go ahead and start. It was time to pick Cohen up from school. After a full day stuck in his elementary school classroom, I decided on the way to take him out to the land, nestle ourselves into our raised blind, and see if we could spot any deer. As was customary, upon pulling into the parking lot of his school, I parked in my usual spot, a westward-facing parking spot that has a large dark oil stain on the concrete from a leaky car. I hopped out and walked between several cars also parked in the lot to get in line for his teacher to see me and announce back through the doorway that I was here for Cohen.
Go in.
When Cohen was called and emerged from the doorway, he ran to me, his arms sticking out sideways, a plastic bag in his right hand and a flapping piece of paper in the other. "Daddy," he yells as he runs down the stairs and the grassy knoll towards me. I knew that he had a rough day. The piece of paper was colored green and yellow. The colors were on different boxes in a chart that tells us how his day was at each activity. "Hey, buddy, let's go to the cabin today," I told him as he gets closer and began handing me the items in his hands. I didn't want to acknowledge the yellow. School is over, and we have a few hours left of sunlight in the warm September afternoon. "What are we going to do?" he asked as he reached out to hold my hand as we walked together across the parking lot. "Well, buddy," I replied, opening up the cab door and letting him hop and then buckle himself into his car seat. "I thought we could go hunting," I began before he interjected. "For dinosaurs," he exclaimed. "And for deer." "Do you think we will see anything?" I jumped in, tightened his harness, and got into the driver's seat and began driving. "Yes, I think so," he replied, and we began driving westward towards the cabin. On the drive to the land, with NPR drumming on about current news, I glanced backwards and saw his eyes starting to get heavy. One of the items on his behavior chart was nap time behavior, and as he was never a good napper, I can imagine that this day he lay quietly on his little cot and sang his ABCs, or counted to 30 multiple times. I glanced again after a few minutes, and his eyes were closed, and his head was leaned back in the corner of his car seat to be supported by two sides. After our 20-minute drive, about 15 minutes after pickup, we came to a long gravel driveway. "Hey, buddy, we're almost there," I said softly to get him stirred in preparation of our arrival. He blinked heavily and was awake enough to support his head as we hit some of the spots on the road that were washed away in a recent storm. We bounced to and fro. Our tilt at times was between 2 and 9 degrees as we went down a small ravine and back up the other side. I tried to straddle some old ruts that the truck made a few months back when we came out when the rain had just washed out some of the gravel. We finally arrived, drove up to the cabin, and I threw the truck in park. I was in a brown hoodie, gray shorts, and tennis shoes. Cohen had on a pair of pants, a blue and white striped shirt, and a teal jacket. I knew that the deer had good vision for blue-colored clothes, but instead of fretting about his apparel that he had worn to school, I offered him several goodies from a snack bag. "Before we go down, do you want some Cheez-Its?" "I also have a Gatorade for you," I asked. He climbed up on our patio and sat, ripping open his bag of Cheez-Its and almost eating several crackers in his first fistful. With him situated, I checked on the time and saw that more than likely it would still be an hour or two before we saw anything, if we saw anything at all. I opened up the passenger side door of the truck and took out my bow and quiver. I sat next to him on the patio and checked each arrow for any damage to the shafts and made sure the broadheads were properly tightened. Cohen and I small-talked for 5 or so minutes while he ate his crackers and drank his Gatorade. It wasn't to be a meal replacement, but it may be a long evening before we actually get to dinner, especially if one of the 8-point bucks entered our vicinity and I would get to take a shot. So that's the first couple of pages from the first short story that I'm writing. I hope you enjoyed the little narration. Obviously, I'm going to keep expanding about that and actually include if we actually saw anything or not, but you'll have to wait for that. Again, I'm going to do this occasionally because it's something different than just a normal banter back and forth with my brother Chase. So, I hope you enjoyed the narration. Thank you for joining. Have a good week.